Hi, everybody. It's Karen Anderson here with Aortichope and my dog barking loudly in the background, so I do apologize. We are actually here today with Greg Aaron Greenberg and our latest guest. We're so excited to have Terry Cook joining us today as we go over all of the posts from last week. And God, she never barks. It's usually yours. It's usually, do you all? Yeah, you all hear that. So yeah, we're as we normally do on this platform, we go over all of the posts that were on Facebook from the prior week in hopes that all of the individuals that are in the community that are not part of Facebook have an opportunity to participate and learn all of our posts. Hey, Joel Amos joining us at the split seconds. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Yes. Please don't forget to like and subscribe at the bottom. And I'm going to let Greg take it away while I go shut my door.
Okay, so we are starting this week. This is the week of November 1st. As you know, we time travel and go back. So we are covering last week's post, and we start with November 1st, which was Medical Monday. And it starts off with Medical Monday with Aortic Hope. We want to focus on aortic valve disease. Let's first talk about the aortic valve. The following information comes from the Society of Thoracic Surgeons. The human heart has 4 valves, 2 on the left and 2 on the right. The aortic valve, the main outflow valve for the left heart, is the valve between the heart and the body. The aortic valve opens when the left ventricle squeezes to pump blood out and closes in between heartbeats to keep blood from going backward into the heart. Normally, the aortic valve has 3 flaps, otherwise known as leaflets, and these control blood flow. Aortic valve disease occurs when the aortic valve doesn't work properly. It either fails to close tightly, which is known as aortic regurgitation or insufficiency, or it gets too tight, which is known as aortic stenosis. There are 2 types of aortic valve disease: aortic regurgitation, also known, like as I said, as aortic sufficiency, where the valve does not close completely, allowing blood to leak backward into the heart. Aortic stenosis, the valve where it's too tight and does not open enough to allow blood to leave the heart and spread to the body sufficiently. To learn more about aortic valve disease and see some cool videos, check out the following information. And we have a link that we include to the post on the Society of Thoracic Surgeons to aortic valve disease. Now, I don't know where to go to first really here, because I think everybody here dodged valve involvement, if I don't believe, correct?
Like a bullet.
Correct.
Okay, so none of us actually have had. Does anybody have a valve that's being watched for insufficiency or anything, stuff like that?
No, but one of the things I will say that I learned not too long ago that I was not aware of is, unlike the aorta or one of the chambers of your heart, if those become enlarged, they don't just naturally shrink in size. Once they are enlarged, they are enlarged. However, the valve, when it can change its level of insufficiency. So finding your valves, whether it's tricuspid, pulmonary, mitral, or aortic, having a trace amount of regurgitation or mild amount of regurgitation is fairly normal, and you'll find it more often as we age. But those designations can change. So you can go in for an echo 1 month and find out that you are mild to moderate, and with really good blood pressure control, turn around 6 months later and it could be trace. So your valves can get tighter with less pressure and less blood pressure issues. So that's the first thing. And I do want to give a shout out to the Society of Thoracic Surgeons, because when you go to the top of their page on the right-hand side, there is a tab that says Patients. And then when you click there, back on the left-hand side, there is patient website and patient resources. And if you go to the patient website, underneath of the congenital heart and valve disease area, or the lung, that's what it's, the heart, lung, and esophageal surgery, there's all kinds of information about thoracic aortic disease, valve issues, aortic dissection, and they've got these great videos like the one that Greg had up on the screen where the valve is moving, and it's such easy to understand information. So just want to give out a shout to them for working with us for so many years and providing easy to read information. But I have my valve. Mine was resuspended when I had my surgery and resuspended more forward in my chest, which may explain why I feel my heartbeat and I see it a lot more predominantly because it is laying a lot more closer to the front wall than it was originally.
Yeah, I would say I was very fortunate. I've dodged valve involvement both times, both with my dissection, and there was a good chance when they replaced with my last surgery all the way to the root that we were going to be potentially sacrificing the valve with how extensive the repair was going to be. And my valve has luckily given a thumbs up and just kept going. But I would like to point out that for a lot of people with aortic disease and stuff like that, that feel certain shortness of breath symptoms and stuff like that, that very commonly comes off a symptom of the valvular issue rather than like an aneurysm creating shortness of breath. So I definitely would point to people if you're having things like shortness of breath and other complaints to your doctors, that you definitely want to make sure that they're getting a good look at your valves. And Terry, Joel, anything that you would like to add?
Well, I think it just plays into a wider point here, is that none of us may have been affected by it, but it is something that we are aware of. And even though we may go stretches of time where we feel good and the doctors are liking our progress, and like in my case, I have a 5.5 centimeter aneurysm we're waiting on in my abdomen. We're monitoring, but it stayed the same for 3 years. But it's another reminder to stay vigilant because, after what we've been through, we are our own best friends. And we know our bodies better than anyone. And if anything feels different or off, no matter what it is, it should always be checked out. I remember going to the ER once and it ended up being nothing. And everybody there, from the doctors to the nurses, stresses, with your case, with your history, no matter what it is, if you have any doubt, come to the ER. We will never not be happy to see you. So I think this is just another example of the need of all of us to stay vigilant.
I absolutely agree, Joel. And I can tell you there are a lot of people that only finally start to realize what their valve level of sufficiency is because all of a sudden they snuck and actually read their report and everything looked fine. But now something like Karen said suddenly changes from mild to moderate, but they have had no symptoms. So at least they know, if you're being vigilant and you're reading over your reports, you will see if there's any change in your valve.
Right.
Okay, with that, we will move to topic Tuesday.
Hello, Bo.
Bo knows.
Bo does know. Bo is joining us from Northern Kentucky, despite the fact that he is a diehard Browns fan. So we will say kudos to him and his Browns.
What do you know, Bo?
And with topic Tuesday, this is something that a lot of us, not so much me anymore, can definitely make a testament to. Although I can talk about what the difference was for me in the past week. But with topic Tuesday, we are talking about colder temperatures. And with colder temperatures approaching certain areas across the country, please take a moment to read the below article, which we share in a link. Remember, extremes in its temperature, whether hot or cold, affect our blood pressure, so dress accordingly. As stated in the British Heart Foundation, an article called "Will Cold Weather Affect My Heart Condition?" it is mentioned that when it gets cold, our bodies adjust to hold onto our core heat and stay warm. This adjustment can be harder for those with a heart condition. The cold weather takes away your body heat, so your heart needs to work harder to keep you warm. So your blood vessels will narrow, so your heart can focus on pumping blood to your brain and other major organs. Cold temperatures can cause your heart to pump faster, an increase in blood pressure, your heart to work harder than usual, your blood to thicken, which in worst cases can lead to blood clotting. This increases your risk of heart attacks and stroke. And during winter, it's important to know the effects of cold weather on your body and the risk of your heart health. For more information, check out the article and the link below. Now, I will ask you guys that are definitely affected by cold weather.
Mm.
Do you notice it? I know it. I definitely did back when I was living in New York. Do you notice the effect cold weather has on you?
Joel,
Yeah,
you need to go first, my friend, because Terry and I have a 70-degree weather day today. So I'm going to let you go first.
yeah, it was a shock, needless to say. I grew up in New England and Minnesota, and then moved to DC for college. So it was lots of winter. Then I lived in California, Southern California, for 25 years. So that was really nice. Although that's where all of this happened. So, of course, weather had nothing to do with that in terms of helping me. But I now live in Spokane, Washington. And I just got back from a reunion visit with some college friends in Los Angeles. And I forgot to check the weather. So I left the house. It was a nice balmy 55. I did not bring a jacket. When I returned 2 nights ago, it was 30 degrees outside. So I was waiting for my Uber for 20 minutes in 30-degree weather in just a sweatshirt. And I can tell you that I have found this in general with cold up here is that maybe it's psychological, maybe it's how I'm wired now physiologically, but I find it a little hard to breathe. Um, it tends the weather literally takes my breath away, and then that can make your heart beat faster because I'm anxious, and I just have to is again it's just something I have to be aware of. It's really hard with a an 8-year-old girl to not go outside and play in the snow. Um, but I go out there dressed like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I mean, I am like layers upon layers upon layers because God forbid I get cold, and I just don't want to get cold. I don't like being cold, but my daughter loves the snow, so we go outside. Um, so yeah, I mean, I can't necessarily put a scientific angle on it. I just know what I feel, and I notice that it is certainly not as enjoyable to be outside as it is in the summer. Although I used to love winter, you know, it's such a change of seasons. I can go skiing, of which course I can't do anymore. Um, so, but just for family fun, it's fine. Otherwise, I'm pretty much inside in the winter because I'm not a big fan of what it does to me. I also noticed that my fingers. I also had a double carpal tunnel surgery in the early 2000s, and I don't know if it's my blood flow issue or the carpal tunnel surgery or whatever, but I find that my fingers are quicker to get numb that since my dissection when I'm outside. So I'm just aware, and like I said, I dress for it. I wear 2 layers of gloves. Um, but it's something just to, again, like almost everything else, you just got to be prepared. Um, and my daughter may run out there without a coat, but that won't be me.
Terry.
Well, like you said, today we have a 70-degree day, so it's not affecting us today. But I do know that I am a lot colder than I used to be. Also, it is because of a lot of the weight loss that I've had through all of this. It's definitely harder to get warm once I'm cold. Um, I watch my son go out and, like you said, I watch my son go out in shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm like, "Are you crazy?"
Hmm.
Because I have to put a coat on because especially when it gets really cold, you can feel it. And I know the couple of days that we had 30 degrees in the morning, I had to take my time walking to the car because it was harder to breathe. It was definitely slower.
You know, and
So I'll take
also
the 73 today.
you know, is also actually, I wanted to point out that my wife used to joke that she used to call me the human furnace. I mean, I just always ran hot, and you know, in the winter that's great. It's nice to snuggle against, but you know, in the summer it's a nightmare. You know, get away from me. You're like on fire. But since my dissection, that does not happen anymore. I run cold. Um, I'm that guy wearing a sweatshirt in the summer in the house, and I can't believe I'm that guy. But after my emergency operation, I'm that guy.
It's interesting that you said that because Karen knows and Greg probably knows, I'm only about 3.5 months out from open heart surgery. So I'm starting to experience things as the weather changes and as things progress throughout this recovery. And now that you said that, I notice my feet are constantly cold.
Mhm.
Like I hate socks, but I have to put them on. And even I'll sit under a blanket in front of the fireplace and I still have my socks on. And I'll go to bed at night and I still have my socks on.
Yes, I wear socks to bed now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I live my life on a personal tropical vacation every single day, but that's called menopause. However, I will say this. Recently, I've had to wear my socks too. I feel I've actually woken up and thought, have I stopped getting any form of circulation to my feet because they're so blazingly cold? But then I put the socks on and then I'm drenching, I'm drenched in sweat. I have always, all my life, found worse now since dissection that being on in either extreme, whether it's extremely hot or extremely cold, worse than the cold, I think it hurts to breathe. It's always hurt down my throat, deep into my lungs and my chest. I tend to get a little bit of a touch of asthma when it's extremely cold. I have to be really careful because it can go full flare. And then when it's really heat, like that sauna heat, it does the same thing in my chest as well. So for me, once the masks came out during COVID, I think it's awesome because I'm breathing my nice own warm, moist air, so it doesn't bother me. I don't have to wrap this godforsaken scarf. I can just have a mask in front of my face. But I am one of those that keep a coat in the car because I will not wear one, but I keep one in case of an emergency so I won't die in the cold. But I do keep one in there. It's too many layers. I want to be cold in my house so I can get under the warm blankets, but I love being outside in the warm air.
That makes sense. I will touch upon one thing from my perspective, just because obviously my perspective, I understand what everybody's talking about as far as the struggles from when I was in New York. Now I'm in Florida. I will say this, any change that is drastic is going to catch you by surprise. So for the last couple days of through my weekend and the tail end of last week, I was in 60s here, where I was in 80s the week before. And that 20-degree change definitely took a little bit out of me, like when I was walking the dogs. Just that change in the air, the fact that it was a little bit cooler. I noticed a little difference in how much effort I was at that point spending the walk. I'd gotten very comfortable from not being in the 90s like we were a month and a half before and in that 80s, and now all of a sudden dropping to that 60s. I know, boo-hoo me, but it changed something. So I think you can expect to see some sort of change in how you regulate your own temperature.
That's a really good point. I mean, I remember that living in Southern California, and people tease us. They're like, "Oh, you guys don't have seasons." I'm like, yeah, we do. It's just they're different. They're adjusted, and yeah, I remember that too. My years in LA before we moved after my dissection, a noticeable difference between September and November, and uh, it is something you have to watch no matter where you are, because a change in weather, sometimes people, their allergies get triggered. So I mean, it's all, it is something we are sensitive to as we are wired.
Yeah, that's literally what I tell people. They're like, "Oh, you're in Florida, you don't really have a winter," and I'm like, "It's a winter for us.
Right,
You
exactly.
just it comes and goes with a basically a front, so you could see it for a week, and then I can be back in the 80s for the next 4 or 5 weeks, and then I could be in the 40s and 50s again for a week again." And like you said, that subtle change, it's like living in that first week of spring or fall where everything gets kicked in. Like you said, allergies, the colds start coming out. That stuff happens every couple of weeks,
Right,
as opposed to truly like April, October, and just seasonal,
right,
or
exactly.
April, November, and just seasonal. So, I mean, that's something to beware. I mean, that's be aware of.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. So Bo is letting us know that due to the neuropathy from the surgery, which we hear commonly, his feet get so cold he wears 3 layers of socks, even during the summer, that's amazing to me.
Sock. That's a lot of sock.
That's a lot of sock. I mean, I deal with a lot of neuropathy. I have, ironically, and I have legitimate ischemia to the feet, and I don't suffer from the same sensation of cold that a lot of other people do.
Hey,
Very
Bo, I
weird.
wonder, Bo, have you ever bought those, Bo, have you ever purchased those thermal warmers, the ones that can go in your socks or in your gloves? I know those can really help keep things warm for a while. I wonder. I haven't used them because I'm too hot all the time, but I see them out there, and so I know they must really work. So I
I
wonder.
think it's also important to understand that for a lot of us that talked about how hot we ran, because we hear about that a lot, and I'm not necessarily pointing out Joel. I would have said the same thing about myself. There might be some questions of our hypertension that might have been existent beforehand, and that might have had a little do with why we felt so warm. And that might have existed. And the fact that our blood pressure is now tightly watched and maintained might have to do with a little bit of why we feel cooler. Not to mention that in certain cases, a lot of people here might be on an aspirin regimen or a blood thinner, which is certainly going to make them feel cooler.
Guilty.
Well, listen, my husband's not on anything. He sleeps with 2 comforters and sweats to bed. But yet he is a BTU of his own personal little mini heater. I feel it. So like you said, Joel, I go up, if he's somewhat nice, I might not stick all 10 toesicles on his leg to make them warm. At some point, some toesicle goes on him and he tells me I'm a horrible woman. But then within 30 seconds, I'm like, oh my God, it's 1,000,000 degrees. And he's shivering under blankets. I think it could just be an age. There's a lot of different factors, but I think that the common thread is for a lot of us, regardless, the extremes of temperatures will adversely affect our blood pressure. And so you need to be careful. You need to be careful.
I think most importantly, we don't feel right when that comes on.
Yeah.
Whether it be heat or cold, something just doesn't feel right. There's a little bit of sluggishness there. There's a little bit of that. And I think that's at least alerting you to the fact that you have to watch and be careful for yourself health-wise.
Yeah.
Melissa from Kansas. How to do?
We'll say hello. We got
How
some
are you?
visitors today.
We got them coming in from everywhere. So Bo has tried those little warmers for the feet. They fit a little tight. Like they probably slip into some kind of compression sock or something. But yeah. I'd rather my feet be cold at night because once I get them too hot, then I'm just completely, you can only take off so many layers before I think if there was a fire, I might have a problem. You have to consider all things, goes on.
Hey, that's a normal concern. That was my first concern. Everyone, we've heard the story. I dissected in the shower. I did not want to be found naked in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
So next up is Therapeutic Thursday. And this past one was National Check Your Blood Pressure Day, which is something we talk about all the time, and knowing your blood pressure and being able to report that to your doctors and how important that is. So we asked, how's your blood pressure? Do you have any idea? The high stress holidays are quickly approaching. So why not use Check Your Blood Pressure Day to find out what your blood pressure is today? The stress of the holiday season may cause it to go higher as it rapidly approaches. For most of us, checking our blood pressure is easy and free. If you already have a home monitor, you just slap on the cuff and take a reading. However, make sure you are putting the cuff in the right place, and that is the right size cuff. Also, you should position your arm correctly. If you don't have a cuff, you can go to the doctors to have it checked, Drugstores and many grocery stores and chains have kiosks located in their prescription area where you can check it for free. Many ambulance companies, especially the volunteers, will accept walk-ins. P.S. If it is a volunteer ambulance company, why not make a donation while you're there? They work on and are able to work for the community based on donations. And here's a great article in the link that we provide that from Harvard Health Publishing titled Tips to Measure Your Blood Pressure Correctly.
We get a lot of this from Dr. Fisher. She's so great in going over some specific examples about blood pressure readings. And as she said, there really should never be a difference between your wrist cuff or your arm cuff. Just make sure you go and have it calibrated, number one. But there are some very intricate ways of having to take your blood pressure. If you're going to take it in the wrist, you've got to keep your arm at heart height the entire time. If you take it in your arm should be relaxed but not hanging down, but the cuff should be at chest height as well. And it should not be all the way up into the armpit, nor should it be all the way into the crook of the arm where the elbow is. So one of the things that this article says is don't drink a caffeinated beverage or smoke during the 30 minutes before you take the test. So try to avoid caffeine. You shouldn't be smoking anyway, at least 30 minutes before you take your test. I'd also suggest don't go exercising, running around the block, and then sitting down and taking this blood pressure. If you want to get a more accurate reading of what your day at rest numbers would look like. It does say to sit quietly for 5 minutes before you take this test. And when you're taking the test, you want to sit upright in a chair, feet on the floor, and the arm that you're using have the elbow be supported. Some doctors may want you to take a test in 3 different positions. That's to determine if you are at risk for any type of changes that occur in position, your positional changes. The inflatable part of the cuff should completely cover at least 80% of your upper arm, and the cuff should be placed on bare skin. It should not be placed on a shirt. So there's all these things that I'm sure people just slap on a cuff and they don't think about. But these bits of information in this article really tell you the most proper way. And of course, if you're ever concerned, you can go to your local pharmacy where they do have these machines and they will show you a proper way to take it. You can ask your doctor, your GP, anybody should be able to go over with you the way to do it. But you should take your blood pressure at least twice. I would not suggest to do it back to back in the same arm because that arm has just been squeezed. However, note that there should be some difference between your arms. Typically, the right arm does tend to show results that might be a little bit higher, but especially for people who have had dissections, you want to always use the numbers that are in the arm that comes back higher because that is the truer indicator of the pressure that's going on in your body. If your blood pressure points are off by a difference of 5 points, take it a third time and average it out. The goal of blood pressure is not to have you be held hostage to your cuff or to have that cuff attached to you like a ball and chain. Your doctor is telling you how often they feel in your particular case that you should be taking your blood pressure. Some doctors are of the belief, take it once, twice a week. Some want you to do it daily. I think a lot of that has to do with they want to see how the medicine is impacting you and how long lasting that medication is to make a decision as to when they should make changes. And you have to also know that your blood pressure changes throughout the day. It's going to be highest in the morning. It's going to be high after you've walked across a room. It's going to be higher when you've gone up the steps. It's going to be high after you eat a high sodium meal or any meal because your body is working to digest it. But your doctor will not change medications based off of 1 or 2 high readings. It's going to take a lot more than that to make those changes because those are called spikes, and spikes are natural and normal. The only exception to the rule would be if you have a blood pressure reading that's going to be at least 180 over 110, that would prompt immediate treatment. If you were, regardless if you're exercising, that seems to be the standard number that if you're getting a result like that, you really need to be seen. You need to make a call to your doctor and determine with your doctor if you should be seen in an ER. That's kind of the gist of that article, the stuff that I got out of it, which was most of it that was written. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? Because I know for me, I used to always give the results that were the lowest because it made me feel better psychologically until she told me, no, you have to go with the higher ones. And then I was like, oh my goodness. And I got major problems here. Uh, but it was good to know that the higher ones were there because I needed to address it. I needed to add another medication. But I'll tell you very honestly, if I check my blood pressure once, maybe twice in a week, that's it. I know when I have higher blood pressure. I feel it immediately. I just don't, after 7 years, I don't check it every day. Maybe I'm bad, but nobody's told me I had to. So that's just me.
Well, I recently got a lesson in staying on top of it. It's been what, 6 years since my dissection, and it was going good. I'm on blood pressure medication. I'm also on blood thinners, so my blood pressure gets checked every time my INR gets checked. So I figured, that's enough. Kind of let it go. But I mean, I used to keep a diary. And then a couple of weeks ago, I started feeling funky. So I mentioned it to my INR nurse, and she checked my blood pressure, and it was like 165/95. And I normally run kind of low. So this was a bit alarming. So we contacted the doctor, and he told me to do just that. And I'm sure you could see this. This is my calendar. So, like you said, he didn't want to just change my medication. He wanted to see if it was a spike. So I documented it for 2 weeks. And sure enough, it came back down. I mean, by the last day, which was yesterday, it was 106/78. So my medication stayed the same. But again, it taught me a lesson that, I had gone maybe several weeks without checking it sometimes because it just, you figure, okay, everything's fine. I feel like I could tell when things are wrong, but I could not tell with this. So I am now checking it, hopefully every day, but maybe at the least every other day, because they're a little worried about that lower number for me. There are some days during that spike where the top number lowered to 97, but the lower number stayed around 90 to 80. So they're just kind of watching it. But then for the last 4 or 5 days, it's all been below 80. So the doctor is very glad he didn't adjust my medication. But it's just something that now I'm going through a phase where I'm on it. I'm checking it every day. I didn't have my cuff with me on my trip, and first thing I did when I got back was check my pressure, and it was normal. So I think these spikes can happen, and if they stay for a while, then it may become a new normal. But for me, it just kind of inched back down. You also become aware of your diet. I'm really not supposed to drink alcohol with my blood thinner, but my INR nurse told me that I could have a glass of wine occasionally if I told her, and we can adjust accordingly. Well, one week I had like 1 or 2 glasses of wine, and I don't think it was coincidence that it was the next week that my blood pressure started acting funky. So she had me look at my diet. She's like, "What have you ingested that's different than before?" And I was like, "Well, honestly, I've had a little more wine than usual." And she said, "Cut it out and see what happens." And sure enough, it went down. So maybe vino ain't so keno for me.
I like that.
That is a good one.
Terry.
What about you,
Yeah.
Terry?
I just want to add a couple of things to that. My first dissection, I'm a little backwards. I had a type B 10 years ago, and I just had a type A in August. But when I had my type B, the doctor, at the time, the surgeon, wanted my pressure 140/90. And I was fine with that. And that's what it was. And then I started a year ago. I started going to the gym. I started exercising 5 times a day. I mean, not 5 times a day, 5 times a week. And I noticed that my pressure was down. And then all of a sudden, late July, my pressure started going up. And I do take my pressure at least once a day, almost every single day. And it just syncs up to my phone and I have it. Or if I don't, I'll write it down. And about 2 weeks before my dissection, my pressure started going up. And I called the physician and told her. And 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital with emergency surgery. So after that, the last 3 weeks have been hellacious because my pressure was up again. And I was so worried that I would take it every day and then it would be up. And that just makes me more upset. That's the other thing you have to think about, that when your pressure's up, you can't get upset, but that's easier said than done. So finally, after the fourth medication, my pressure is down. I started cardiac rehab yesterday. And I still take my pressure at least once or twice a day. And it's just, this is a topic that's really near and dear to me because they're saying most of this was caused by my blood pressure.
Yeah, well, that 5.5 centimeter aneurysm I have in my abdominal aorta, I mean, the key to the whole thing is blood pressure. And that's why the doctor is strict with me, like nothing that qualifies as exertion. So no running or lifting anything more than 10 pounds. I can walk. Thank goodness I have a treadmill. It's my best friend because it's all I can do. But yeah, that blood pressure, especially if you have something budding like an aneurysm or something like that, that is something you do need to keep an eye on. Because I've had the same measurement for 3 years, thank you, and very happy about that. No hurry to get my insides all garbled, but I also know the key to that is watching my blood pressure. So I'm a little ashamed that I kind of let it go there for a while, but it's kind of easy, and I think it's a human nature to kind of like I've been okay for 2 years. What's going to change? And then you get a little wake up call at the doctor's office. I'm like, my blood pressure's high. So yeah, I got to kind of go back to keeping on top of it. But we're all human, and these things happen and life happens. But like my doctor stressed to me that the key to my aneurysm not bursting is blood pressure, and I don't know how to make that any more clear. So message heard, doc.
The other thing too, both you and Karen said it is the diet. Diet is a big thing for me that ever since this happened, I have been watching every single thing that I put in my mouth. Um, don't laugh, Karen. I
No,
do.
I watch everything I put in my mouth too. I watch it go into my mouth. Yeah.
Right. Well, you're 7 years, I'm only 3 months. So I'm very, very concerned about that. Not only that, I've lost so much weight that I don't want to gain it back, but I have totally changed my eating habits. And I have a son and a husband, and what they want to eat, they can eat. I don't care. I'm eating what I want to eat that is healthy, that's going to keep my pressure down, and it's going to keep my heart where it needs to be.
Boom. Exactly.
God, now I just feel really bad about myself.
No.
There's no reason to. I mean, we all
No.
have. I mean, listen, unfortunately, I just realized that as far as our little group here, outside of how long that managing a descending, as far as the ascending dissections, I'm the grandfather of this group. At 8 years, I don't watch my BP nearly as much as I used to. Ironically, now I will admit I go to look at it on the flip side. I will more apt to grab the cuff when I'm having an orthostatic situation so that I can understand that my BP is that low. And that's why I'm feeling shaky on my feet and a little bit dizzy. A lot more than feeling that I'm elevated now. I will feel for some reason all of a sudden, that's why my BP is 97/60, and I normally live in the 118 to 125 range. Yeah, that could be a little bit of why I'm shaky on my feet right now. And that's just, for me, it's just at that point, I know I'll sit down, I'll eat something possibly with a little more salt or sodium that given moment. Normally go to is a quick pickle, just to kind of jack up my sodium quickly in that moment, and normally will alleviate some of that issues for me. But it's being aware of one way or the other that your BP is off, I think, and then being able to relay that to your doctors, because like you guys stated, your doctor's not going to do it on 1 or 2 readings. The only hope of affecting changing your regimen, ultimately feeling better, is to go with them with a doc. This is what's going on over the course of a month of my BP, and showing them a list and them seeing what you're taking at home.
And if you are the kind of person who becomes very anxious over the idea of it's time to take my blood pressure cuff again, and there are many people out there that are like that, and then their readings are never true, you can request from your doctor for a 24-hour cuff. It's annoying, but it's literally stays on your arm for 24 hours. You sleep with it, you do everything, you just don't shower with it, and you never know when that sucker's going to go off. But there's not enough of a time for you to react that all of a sudden it's going to capture this horrific blood pressure reading. It goes off while you're asleep. It doesn't really wake you. It just squeezes and then it's done. But that is a really good way of getting an accurate reading over what's going on during your day when you're at rest and not at rest. So those are options that your cardiologist would have to order for you.
And anybody that's dissected has been through it. It's no different than being hooked up to the blood pressure cuff that we all had on our arms in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It's just controlled in your own home as opposed to being hooked up to a machine. And like Karen said, it tends to be a little more sporadic over the course of the day as opposed to being hooked up to a nurse's station, which is telling it to take a reading every 20 minutes or every 15 minutes.
Those are tighter anyway. They're annoying.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, they are. But I mean, that's the least of what. They did not wake me up when they went off in the hospital. Everybody else wakes me up, but they didn't.
Right.
Right.
With that, we will move on. And I will let you talk about this, Karen.
It's our first Friday fundraiser.
It's our first Friday fundraiser.
Fall fundraiser. Yeah. So initially we had 2 shirts that had hoodies attached to them. They were not sweatshirts, they were shirts. But due to all of the shipments and issues going on in the world, we were running into production problems with those shirts for sizes outside of 3X. It was the only size they were willing to offer the community. We picked out 2 different shirts now to replace those. So we have 6 shirts. We've got 4 that are long sleeve, actually by 2 different companies, and then 2 that are the raglan baseball style. And we love this logo. And as it said in the description, to summarize, whether you have the balloon shield, we'll call it, because I can't remember each of the different words, was a shield, crest, and badge, which would represent aneurysms, or the caring or helping hands crest, or the zipper badge, which could represent having surgery or dissection. We are aortic strong, despite the fact of our aortas not really being strong. However, we are an unbreakable community, and we just loved having this. We all came together. A lot of this sparked by Greg's idea initially of playing on what we see of what's your superpower. Look, my superpower is I got up today and I got dressed for this, but this is a great logo. I think it's a great opportunity to showcase something different. It is our limited edition logo for this fundraiser. Hope everybody gets a chance to order it. It will end a week from Friday, which is the 5, 7, 12. No, it actually ends on Saturday the 20th. We extended it to Saturday the 20th. So yeah, a portion of the sales will be given back to Aortichope, which we use 100% of all of that money towards our initiatives to help the community. And I'm broke and I haven't even picked one out yet because I don't know how many I want to get. There's so many. I mean, honestly, come on, the navy blue, Greg, I love that navy blue. I love the mint because I love the black logo. I love a good baseball shirt. I don't know what I don't know. It's going to be a problem.
Now that you changed them and took the hoodies off, I see that purple one right behind Greg's head. I'm like, dang it, I already got the mint, but I think I've got to get that purple too.
The purple's hot with the white.
Yeah, and then you can wear it for those of you that are in Maryland, Karen and I, we can wear it for Purple Fridays for the Ravens.
Right. That is right.
So I think I will, when we get off of here, I'll be ordering one more shirt. Just don't tell my husband.
I think that you should.
I'm going to.
And they make great holiday gifts. So we're still going to be talking about this one again next Friday or next Monday. So yeah, first fundraiser fall Friday. I don't know.
F.
Too many F's. F. Right. Yeah. So that is launched. We're excited. We hope that you're able to partake, those watching that are also liking and subscribing to our channel right now as we speak. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a great fundraiser, and like Karen said, it's important design. It's very important to me as somebody that has really been a part of a lot of the groups and the community for a while now. We are stronger together, and that's what we mean by aortic strong and the unbreakable community. And to me, that's what I want to get across with this, especially with this shirt, is that none of us that are experiencing any of this are alone. You have the rest of us to reach out to, and we'll be there.
And you're right, you make a good point, because this is also great for your caregivers to wear as well. And that was one of the things we were aiming for with this logo and with the slogan, is that it's not excluding anyone in this situation. Honestly, if you've lost a loved one, you're still part of the community, and it's an unbreakable community. So it really covers all bases with this.
I
That's
can say,
that.
with the unbreakable community, it is so true. As I said, it's only been 3 months, but I found Karen and I've talked to Greg, and just the support groups and the Facebook pages and everything. Being a part of this, it truly is unbreakable, because we've all experienced this. We all know this. And I'm so glad that I found everybody, and especially aortichope. And I have to go order another T-shirt.
Thank you. We're gonna we'll be, Josh, make yourself available. We will be shooting a PSA or an advertisement or a commercial with Terry when we're done this. Thanks.
Yes.
I need to eat better too, Melissa, and I don't have a mechanical. So I think everybody probably at some point, even if they're eating well, in quotes, has their cheat day. But yeah, there's so many diets out there. But I will say that we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Dr. Fisher, if you go back and look on our website, talked about the DASH diet. And I cannot come up with what that dash stands for, but it is not Mrs. Dash. It is actually stands for something to do with hypertension. Dash diet and the Mediterranean diet. Those were, I think, her two favorite diets for helping to reduce hypertension, and just the best. That's what I think as cardiologists that they're really talking about. So if you get a chance, take a look at the DASH diet. And hey, if you do it, drop us a line and let us know how it works for you. I've at least earmarked it. Have not bought one piece from the grocery store yet, but I'm on my way. I'm on my way. Still researching.
Karen, it's funny that you said that, because I went into, when I heard about the DASH diet and I heard, this all happened, I went into, I have Kindle Unlimited. I downloaded 3 DASH books, and I was at rehab yesterday, and it just so happens this week is all about dietary and eating right. And I actually have a call with a dietitian tomorrow all about the DASH diet. And I brought home the pamphlet. It's still on my kitchen table, but I brought home the information for the DASH diet. So the DASH diet is definitely the way to
That's
go.
wonderful. Yeah. And you know what? If you get a chance to implement that, if you can kind of keep tabs on your journey with this, we'd love to have this as a future blog online. I know a lot of people would love to hear your journey with how you found out a little bit more about it and how you're implementing it and how it works for you. And did you find it restrictive? Because both of those should not feel restricting at all. They really should just help eliminate a lot of the sodium and just be a little bit more heart healthy.
I think it's about being conscious about what you're putting into your body, which is what we've talked about. There's always steps to it. No one needs to aggressively 100% one diet at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in there. But if you are conscious of what you're doing, especially sodium level and certain other fried foods, then.
I'm only laughing because, real quick, when I first had my dissection, the emergency dissection, it really freaked me out, as I'm sure everyone knows. And I went the whole other direction. I got a low sodium American Heart Association cookbook. I cooked, I cut everything out. I'm a movie reviewer, and they give us free popcorn at all the screenings. I stopped eating popcorn. This. Long story short, I ended up in the doctor's, and they did a blood test, and they're like, "You really need to increase your sodium level. Your body is screaming for it." So there's a balance there. I mean, we could take it too far, especially when you come back from a surgery and it's fresh on your mind, and you're like, "I'm going to change the way I live," and you can also take it too far. And so I'm a living lesson for that, and that I didn't realize that your body needs a certain amount of sodium. So, I mean, my doctor just told me to be aware of it, to watch the nutrition labels, and to stay within that, 80 to 100% of the daily balance of sodium, and you should be fine. There's no reason to go way below that, because your body needs it. But the key is when our diets in general as Americans are loaded with sodium. So, as they say, avoid as much as possible the middle of the grocery store. Eat the foods that are on the ends, and you'll be careful with your sodium. But don't take it too far, because that's not fun either, believe me.
Very fair point. With that, we will move on to Sunday.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Sunday. And this Sunday was a reminder about Amazon Smile. And it was Smile Amazon Sunday. Holiday shopping has begun, so turn your shopping into a force of good. If you plan on making online purchases via Amazon, consider purchasing through smile.amazon.com instead. When you shop at Smile, you can assign a charity of your choice. Us. That's what we're campaigning. Aortichope. Us. But I'll be honest with you, we're not. We would like you to do it for anything that you're passionate about, not just us. But obviously, we're going to campaign for us, so consider us. And Amazon will donate 0.5% of eligible purchases to your favorite charitable organization. Once again, us. No fees and no fees and no extra cost to you. And truly, all jokes aside, we'd be honored if you chose Aortic Hope and help us continue to provide the initiatives that we offer to the community.
And you can do it with your Prime account too. But you do have to go in through smile.amazon.com, but you can then log in with your Prime. And so none of that stuff really changes and it just happens seamlessly. But it's kind of cool because it'll send you a message that says you just donated blah, blah, blah amount of money to your charity. And again, you can change it anytime you want. You can do certain, whatever. You can make it a new charity every day of the year. It doesn't matter. The point is it costs you nothing. But I'll tell you what, if Aortic Hope gets back $60 or even, $60 to $100 a year from this, goes a very long way for us. Every dollar goes a very long way for us. So, and start your shopping now because those shipping containers, the last I heard, are still sitting out there. You want to get this, get your stuff ordered now.
I saw them actually.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I will definitely keep Aortic Hope floating with my Amazon purchases. There's probably a box at my door every day. I wish I would have known about this in 2020 because that was, of course, my biggest Amazon year.
Right.
But now it's better than never. And like I said, there was 2 boxes yesterday. There was 1 today. If Amazon doesn't show up at my door, something's wrong.
That's good to know.
So
Thank you so
you guys
much.
will be well handled.
Thank you.
And this post was fantastic because as soon as I saw it on Sunday, I switched it right over. So I was very happy to see it.
Super easy.
The importance that Karen brought up is so easy. All it is redirecting when you sign, to go through Smile. Like Karen said, your account will come with you to the Smile URL. So it's a piece of cake, and then it's just setting up whatever charity you choose.
Amen.
I had an order this morning. I will not lie. I have a certain movie that might be coming my route that was ordered through Amazon this morning due to the fact that I cannot find it in any of my stores locally. So it shall be coming to me, but it was done this morning. And with that, we pretty much wrap up the week, but I don't want to wrap up the week until we talk about what Karen's weekend was.
Yeah, and then we've also got some stuff coming up. Before I talk about this weekend, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our very first community book reading event. And these are our stories written by the community for the community member. Our very first author is a survivor, Andrea Garrett Helms, and her book, which is called Everyday Sinner, basically has become synonymous with the word miracle. And it is the story of when Andrea was pregnant with her second child and woke in the middle of the night to having searing chest pains that would be later diagnosed as an aortic dissection. So she's going to come on. She's going to explain what got her to write the book to begin with, a little bit about her story, and then read a portion of her book. And she'll be available to take questions from the community while you watch here on our YouTube channel. So you have to like and subscribe and hit the little bell so that you're getting notified of it in case you forget that it's on our events page, both on our website and on our Facebook. So yes, this weekend, it's such a fun weekend. It really was. Aortic Hope was invited, as was Think Aorta, to attend the aortic disease conference that took place at Montefiore Hospital. There will be an aortic center naming in honor of Dr. Paul Kors, who was a doctor at the time of his undiagnosed aortic dissection. He actually went into the hospital having had chest pains while training for the New York City Marathon. This was 2 years ago, and was told that he was in fine shape, and then went back to working out and then never made it home. So his mother, Dr. Patricia McQuaid-Course, who is also a doctor, a pediatrician, invited us to attend. It was so informative. Many different doctors spoke, a lot about what actually happened to him, a lot about some upcoming surgical tools and techniques that are coming down to the pike. Dr. Diana Milowitz was there sharing some very exciting information on the genetics home front. Although, to be quite honest with you, a lot of the letters and numbers, although I knew it was English, just went right over my head, but I was still very interested. It was very interesting. Learning the different ways that one can be put on the heart lung machine, and how you can tell who was a specialist in performing these types of surgeries, sometimes based upon where you were attached to that bypass machine. So it was just a lot of very interesting information. And then we did get to, oh, and Dr. Ben Udelman spoke. He had a great short but informative speech, which is online now, about Think Aorta and the importance of everyone coming together and stopping this from being siloed. There's no reason for aortic disease to be siloed, to have it be such a delineation between thoracic or abdominal. It is one vessel, and coming together to try to have early and proper diagnosis. Friday night, we got to attend a fundraiser that was being held by the John Ritter Foundation, and I think it's called Love for Livy. And that was so great because I got to meet Larry, or Richard Klein, and Jason Ritter, who were just wonderful and eager to hear all about the things that aortichope's doing. I also got to meet a survivor named Swanky Clanky. For those of you out there, have you probably seen her name on the pages, and she was just a blast to spend time with, and a couple other new survivors as well that are not on Facebook that now are aware of our organization. And then on Saturday night, we had an opportunity to attend a concert that was put on with a variety of musicians that came together to play Paul Korz's music. He was also a musician, a budding musician, and the music was really great. That was my first time seeing somebody play. I think it's called a clapstick. It's not called chapstick. Nope, it's definitely called a clapstick. It's just it looked just like a stick, like a paddle stick, and the sounds that came out of this, it was mesmerizing. And it was just a really great weekend of so many different organizations coming together, initially over tragedy, but leaving feeling supported, fulfilled, educated. This was a lot of fun. It was really, it was a wonderful, wonderful way to round up the weekend. Was having all these different opportunities, and it was great. Yeah, now I'm tired. I'm ready to be done for a while until Rock from the Heart, which we are going to, and so are members of Aortic Bridge and Think Aorta, and we're so excited to attend that in Minnesota at the end of February. Oh my goodness, I can't wait for that cold weather. But yeah, now I think what's great about all of these different events is seeing the collaboration finally taking place and seeing it have an even better chance of making an impact. It's like knitting the best of all these different worlds together and just hitting the community hard with everything we've got. And we're going to be a powerhouse, all of us together. So yeah, good stuff coming down the pike. But first off, we've got the book review, and then next week on the 15th, we have our Ask a Doctor event. So check us out. Check out the event section on our website and Facebook page. And again, I cannot impress enough. Like and subscribe below. And that's our week in review.
Awesome
Wraps
sauce.
up the week.
Ding.
Terry, Joel, Karen, I'd like to thank you all for joining me.
Thanks to the comments from all of the
Always
viewers.
great to have people. Yes, people, everybody out there watching and commenting. Thank you. We love the give and take of the people watching. So please continue commenting, and we'll always get back to you.
Same time next week.
See you all next week.
All right.
Same time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming, guys.